Guys, here we have the world famous, the one and only 1.8 pound long-haired Chihuahua, Little Moose, and she's alongside of the world famous 92 millimeter stowaway refractor from Astrophysics. And she hopes that you enjoy this video. And now I've got to bribe her for being on camera. Moose! Does a nice job, don't it, Don?
Yeah. Nice shirt right there so far.
What's that?
Nice shirt.
Actually, it is.
The soy is just the right moisture content to do that.
You're right. It's not packing. Well, this is my neighbor Don. He's the supervisor of the job. He's got a little bit of a pile to clean up. He's doing a good job. Okay, so this was bored 18 inches in diameter, and they went down 7 feet deep. And you can see we got some groundwater. And I wanted to go real deep, well below the frost line, just to make sure everything stays put. So what I did is I laid out this base plate that my anchor bolts are going to be put on as a form so that they match the holes in the pier. Initially I took these clamps and made sure that I clamped in this area all around on each corner to make sure everything was lined up. Then I took these 4-inch deep clamps, so I was able to crank them down with wooden pads on each side, put 4 of those on, then remove those clamps. And now we're going to go ahead and drill these holes, which should locate everything then on this plate. Okay, so we've drilled the holes 1/2 inch, and I had to enlarge this base plate. It was just a hair under. The anchor bolts wouldn't go, so before I did this, I drilled these out to 1/2 inch. And now we're going to go ahead and take the clamps off and put our anchor bolts in here. This will be the form, and we should be able then to slide it over this base plate, and everything should be fine then. So that way when we pour concrete, this will hold all the anchor bolts in position relative to the base plate. Alright guys, so here you see it. I've got, I don't know, I just did it this way. I've got 2 pointing in the hook and then 2 pointing away from the center. And I've got the 1/2 inch nut to the end of the threads. I've got an oversized stainless steel washer. And then I've got an oversized stainless steel washer here. Then the nut, which holds that to this form. And as you can see, I've got it here. I may have to go like a 32nd or just a hair on a couple of these over the base plate, but as it stands now, it should be pretty good, because when I put it in there, it's snug. So we're going to call this good as the form. And then here you see the side, top side. This will be up, and I'll be able to put a level on this when I push this down into the concrete. So I'll be able to level it in both north, south, and then east and west directions. Get this as level as possible. Then I can always do some shimming of the base should I need to. Now, in case you're interested in knowing where I got this particular board to hold my anchor bolts, which worked out excellent for this. I'm glad I got it. Got it at Menards. This is what they call it. It was $9. And one reason why I wanted this is because it was thick, cheap. I didn't have to cut up a good piece of plywood. And I'm just going to pitch this. Being 1 inch thick, it gave me enough meat on here for strength and to make sure that it wasn't bowled. Now, one thing you do want to do is these come with like a cellophane or plastic type wrapper on them. So when I chose one to buy, I took the wrapper off at the store and checked it various points with a level to make sure that it was flat. And I did find some that weren't. So if you do something like this, make sure before you leave the store you check these, because I didn't want to leave the store and get home and you can't check it well with the cellophane, because you know how that is around the edges where it's raised and everything. So other than that, this worked out good. A cheap way to do it, and that's what I was looking for. So I put the Astrophysics flat surface adapter on there, and before I took this top plate off the pier that you see here, I made sure to mark everything what was north. Then I marked what was north on the flat surface adapter. Likewise, on the very bottom of the pier, I marked north. So when I set this up, this is going to go to the north, obviously. And so everything went back together beautifully. And this is, I should have gotten a picture of the pipe. This is thick pipe, almost 1/4 inch thick. Very heavy duty. So we are getting closer. So one of the considerations that I had to deal with, and I did not want to drill any holes in this pier, is how was I going to attach the Astrophysics CP5. Now I've only got 2 mounts currently. I've been downsizing, so I've got 2 Mach 2s, and so I needed to be able to attach, and I'm gonna have my Mach 2 with the serial number of 82. It's going to be dedicated to this pier. So anyways, I needed to be able to attach this. Did not want to drill holes. So it was a pretty simple thing that I came up with in order to do this. So here's what I came up with. Now we start out with a piece of aluminum angle iron, 2 inch by 2 inch by 1/8 inch, and it's 10 inches long. Now I did a video on this some years ago, but this piece here, right here, I sold my 12-inch ATS portable pier, which is beautiful, but just getting too heavy. I didn't want to deal with it anymore. So I kept this, and I've done videos on it. They're in my YouTube channel. So I kept this and just used it for this setup. So what this allows, and I also did a video on this, the Astrophysics design is to loosen this up and then set the other piece, and I'll show you in on here. I didn't want to do that. I wanted this where I didn't have to fool around with small Allen wrenches at night, possibly lose them, drop them in the grass, and never find them. So you can look up that video, and I show how I do this, so that it's just a drop-in way to do it. You don't have to fool with any tools. Now this piece here that you see on the back of the CP5 is the Astrophysics M11010 KIT, and it is called their 1100 single control box adapter, currently going for $62. This piece here that it attaches to is the Astrophysics Q6281 KIT, and it is called the extension to allow the 1100 control box adapter to be used with 10-inch diameter piers. Currently goes for $57. So this is how simple this will work. And then we let gravity do the rest. Never had a problem. This goes nowhere. So now I'll take the cables from the rear of the Mach 2 and come down and plug them, the right ascension and deck, into the proper ports on the CP5. The next thing I needed was a place to hang the keypad, the Astrophysics keypad. So, pretty simple. And I'll show you. When this goes on the mount, the back plate, because these two holes, I'll show you when I go to the pier. This is what will mount to the top plate of the pier. And I did this in such a manner, this is in the center of the top pier plate. This sticks over. So this is simply a nice hook that I found. It's 5/16 diameter. It's plenty long enough. And then that's where the, what you call it will attach to. The keypad will attach right to that. Pretty nice. Now the top of that plate on the pier has several holes. The ones I'm going to use are M8, they're pre-threaded, M8 by 1.25 pitch. And then I use transfer punches to locate these two holes and drill those out. And so that gets me to that point. But then I needed to have a way to, I didn't want to use any tools because I'm coming up from behind to bolt into that plate, not from above. And so I'll show you what I did to have a no tool bolt. And here we are, boys and girls. So I went locally, and when I get a little chance here, I'm going to try to find these in stainless, but I wanted to get this going. So I bought several lengths. I think this is 40 millimeters, but in any event, it's the proper thread, and it's a button head. And so what I did is took a wing nut, and then I'll hold this with the pliers, and I'll jam this wing nut up into the button head, so it can't go anywhere. I mean, it's jammed in there. So now this is my no tools attachment bolt, because at night the less you have to deal with, the better. Dropping things in the grass, you know. So anyways, that's what we got. One other thing is I wanted to use the 2-inch, and so there's a ring underneath the top plate that would get into this area. So I had to fur this down so that it would miss that. And so I found these at Lowe's, and one thickness is just not quite enough. So I put two of them together. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put a little epoxy on here, clamp them, let them dry, so that way this will act as one spacer. And if I'm going to drop something, I'd rather drop one spacer at night than two of them. And this is what that is. Alright guys, so today is August the 2nd, 2025, and it is a Saturday. Beautiful day. It's just going to be in the high 70s. We've had some really hot weather. But anyways, so the cement truck came out today. I had a short load. They brought 1 yard. Didn't even take half of it. Took longer for them to get ready and flip around out on the road to come in proper. But anyways, so I've got her all set. It's all level. This is my trusty old Craftsman level, one of my favorites. God, I've had it since the early 80s. Anyways, so she's level, perfect, east and west, and just slight north, just slightly. Not even going to worry about it. And so the mix is really wet. I wish it would have been drier, but so I had to do something like this, which actually worked out fine. As you can see, I used these survey stakes here, and then I used shims until it was level. So that worked out good. So probably tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon, I'll pull the wood piece off. Might even wait. I'm in no hurry. So, but anyways, that's what we've got. So here you see east and west. And this really worked out good, because at the level that I put this concrete, just with the ground, just a hair under ground level, the nuts underneath are off of the cement, which means I can keep this nice and low when I go to adjust and level the pier in. And here you can see the shims that I used to get everything right with the world. And as to be expected, those cement truck did leave some heavy marks in the yard. Since we're on the subject of the concrete, I thought I would show the cost. Then I'm going to show the mix that I got. And then while we're on cost, I'll go over the cost of this project. So as we see here, we're getting 4,000 psi. I think it's a straight concrete air. $176. You've got an environmental surcharge, which is $40, which is a basically bend over charge, if you know what I mean. Now, I got a short load. They only sent out 1 yard. I need less than half a yard, so that's how they do it. The cost of doing business, I understand that. That was $200. And then fiber, 1 pound per yard, $6. So the total was $450.49 with tax. And then just pause the video when need be. And guys, have you ever seen anything in business that didn't have an attorney stuck to it? They don't even tell you this ahead of time, which I understand. Like I said, it left some marks in my yard. No big deal. But yeah, stuff like this that the average person wouldn't know, that like the marks that I anticipated being in the yard, they might complain, but they spell it out right here. Something else, guys, if you're not familiar with it, which I fully understood, you know, you're not, any concrete returned is you know, you're just lucky they're returning it. You're not, they're gonna not dump the rest at your yard. And then it says the short load, which they do tell you when you call and get the price. They will tell you there's a short load charge. And obviously, customers supply wheelbarrow or designated area to wash down in. That I understood, because they're going to wash that. And so that's why I made sure when the concrete coming down the chute, I had very little at a time. When we got to the top, the guy was good. I didn't want a whole lot. In fact, basically, I had hardly anything that he had to wash out of the chute. And the plywood that I used to cover the hole to keep out any animals from getting injured is what I had him clean out on. And so the yard didn't have any of that. So just in case you guys aren't familiar with this and you want to do a job like that, these are considerations to think of, because they're going to wash that truck out. you know, the chute before they leave. Something else they never did mention though, it says here 6 minutes per yard unload time is allowed. Demurrage time will be charged to customer. Now it took more than 6 minutes because, but the guy was cool. I mean, but this is something I wasn't aware of. And you know, the thing is, when they bring the paperwork to you, I had a check because he told me, he says, and which is understandable. You got to pay for it ahead of time. I told him I would pay by check. I gave him the check, and then I just signed this. This is my copy. I signed the piece of paper. And again, you know, I didn't go over all this stuff. So, but some of this is common sense. But I'm just providing this for you in case you do this. You're aware ahead of time that you can contact the company that's going to deliver your concrete and ask them these questions. Now the other cost that I had to bore the hole was $200, which that is a really good deal. Appreciate that. $200 is an excellent deal to bore that hole. And then the Ioptron Permanent Pier was, I bought that from Agena. It was $528 plus tax, came to $564.96. The grand total in this project that I have is $1,215.45. Alright, so it's about 24 hours since the pour. I'm going to go ahead and take the wooden form off and see what we got. Okay, so I had to ream those holes open to 9/16. It was going down but a little snug with the 1/2 inch, so I just opened them all up to 9/16. And as you can see, the next thing is leveling it. Now, one thing I'm noticing is I wonder if I offset this too much to west of north, because if I stand here like this and I go up, looks like I might have went too far north to get it lined to the pole, because the road doesn't follow north. It's to the east of north, but which is gonna, because I wanted my mount somewhat parallel with this, which not a big deal. I suppose I should have not even worried about it and just put this dang thing just straight and not dealt with it, but we've got it now, so let's get this thing leveled. So here it is. I've got it leveled perfectly, east and west, and north and south. It's got to come up just ever so slightly to from the north. It's got to come up just a hair, but it's perfectly centered in the bubble, east and west, and it's within the bubble, north and south. And like I said, just a hair. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm calling that good. Now the reason that grass looks dead around it is because I had a partial sheet of plywood covering the hole for a couple weeks once the hole was dug, to make sure no animals got in there, got injured. So that's why the area around it looks like it's dead grass. But so this is good. I've got the galvanized nut on the bottom with a washer, another washer on top, and then another galvanized nut on top. And those are cranked down, and it's very solid. I thought it would be interesting to show it with the Eagle tripod. Now I've got two Eagle tripods, and I have two 4-inch extensions and two 8-inch extensions for it. Currently you see it with the 4-inch extension, so you'll see that the pier that I put in permanently is a bit higher, but this will work out great. And when I did my review of this video, or of this pier, I also showed that you can put extensions on, you know, in the surface adapter, which I probably won't be a need to do, but if you wanted more height. So anyways, I just thought that would be interesting to see. Here you see it attached to that top plate of the pier. So the outside is the M8, and then these are tapped 3/8/16. Now here's that ring I was talking about that I had to fur this adapter down with these spacers so that it would miss. Here you see the CP5 attached to the mounting bracket that I made. That's going to be it for now. I will not be putting any equipment on it, so I'm going to wait till next weekend. I won't have a chance after work to do anything, so they are calling for rain Saturday, but so my anticipation is a week from now to go ahead, get this all set up, put the mount on, telescope, get her set up, and the thought being that since this is permanent and I'll dedicate my Mach 2 serial number 82 to this, I should be able to just put the mount back on and it'll be so close that I won't have to do anything but turn it on and then just do my thing. So this will save me a lot of time having to bring out a tripod, level it, the weight, the weight of the tripod, the time it takes. You'll be up and observing so much quicker, and I'm kind of getting this going towards hopefully retirement next year, so I want to get this to where I'm going to be using my equipment a lot more often. Alright, so it's a beautiful evening tonight after work, and I'm not going to have time to set everything up. Got to get to work early in the morning, but what I want to do tonight is just get this closely aimed at Polaris. And so one of the things you're going to note is that you'll see there's play. These bolts can only go, they're not reamed in and they're not pinned or anything with dowel pins, so the location wise I'm not too worried about that. Okay, so here's what my thought is. I've got these 120 degrees apart, the knobs. I've got one to the north. So what I was going to do is the first thing you do obviously is put the mount on here. And this is the Mach 2 serial number 82 that is going to be dedicated just to this pedestal. So what I was going to do is, when I set this up, slightly rotate it clockwise, then start with the north knob, then go to the east knob, excuse me, and then the west knob, and hand tighten them. So let me do this one. And then I'll use this tool, which I've epoxied the hex end to, and tighten them up. So that way we're always in the same direction, the slop, if you want to call it that, and we're setting this up in the same fashion every time. So I plan on doing that. I'll get this set up close tonight, and I've got my polar scope on here. So once I get Polaris and the polar scope, I'll just tighten everything down, and then hopefully Friday, if it's clear after work, or the weekend, all I've got to do is set this on here. I'll be where I need to be, and then I'll do a very careful alignment. Then after that, I'm going to put equipment on here, obviously, observe, and hopefully it's clear the following evening or the next time I'll take everything off, put this back on, do the same process, and then I want to see if I can repeat uh, the observing it and see how close this is. But with this Mach 2, I don't think there's going to be any problem. And I would dare say I could probably even do photography, which I don't really do now. But it's such a good mount, I think that this setup like this won't be an issue. So a couple clips ago I had stated that I wasn't going to set that up permanently the night that I tried this. But once I got it going, it was very simple. I thought, well, let me go ahead. I didn't have any equipment on it, just the Mach 2 mount. No counterweights, nothing. Just like I said, just a mount. And so I got it really good in the polar scope. Tightened everything down, snugged everything up. Then what I did is I thought, you know what, let me undo these bolts here that hold the to the flat surface adapter. Then, as I stated previous, I rotated it around, you know, jiggled it a little bit around. And then, following the same process, rotated this clockwise just, you know, till the bolt buried up against the hole in this flat surface adapter. Hand tightened the north, went clockwise, then this one, and then the one on the other side. After that was done, then again, as stated earlier, tightened them all down. Then I looked back in the polar scope, and the Polaris was right where it was. So that told me this was good. So then I cranked everything down, made sure that the altitude and azimuth knobs, everything was cranked down, tight, permanent. And then today, a week later, August 9, 2025, I got home late from work last night, didn't really have time to do anything. So this morning, I thought, let me just set this up, put my Astrophysics 130 GTX on, and I powered it up, turned it to the sun. I homed it, turned it to the sun, and the sun was just slightly off center. So that tells me that this is a beautiful setup right here, because I can take this off, put it back on, following the exact same procedures, and I'm good to go. I'm set up. I don't have to worry about lugging out a heavy tripod, leveling it, then having to set it to Polaris in the evening. I've eliminated quite a bit. Very simple. Really happy with this. And this thing is solid as a rock. I just cannot begin to tell you how it'd take an earthquake to move this. That's why I'm glad I went down 7 feet with this. Well, when I set the anchor bolts, I tried to get them somewhat lined up, eyeing it up, and I didn't do a very good job. And once they're in, they're in. But I wanted to get this so that it was pretty much pointing to the pole, North Celestial Pole. But as you can see with this adjuster here, it should be, if I was closer, it would have been between these 2 points here and closer to the center. And I was off. I'm a little bit too far to the west of the pole. So anyways, I had plenty of adjustment, still plenty more to go, and so it all worked out. Another consideration in this project is, am I going to leave this top part uncovered, or am I going to cover it? Well, I get all 4 seasons here, and I'm out in the country. I get a lot of strong westerly prevailing winds in the winter, and so I decided for the summer I didn't want to cover. I already know how I'm going to do it. I haven't made it quite yet, but I didn't want to cover this in the summer because my idea is to have a thing that goes over this. Then it's going to get anchored to the bottom, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. My fear is that you're going to get bees, wasps, whatever, bugs, spiders that may possibly congregate up above this thing, and then when I go to pull it off, if there's a wasp, because every now and then I get those wasp nests in my along the house, and I got to take them down, and I don't want to pull this off and have some pissed off wasps or something like that, that bees, you know, whatever might come in after me. So for the summer I'm going to leave it off. Now the anodizing might fade. I'm not even worried about that. So, but once we get into the winter, get any freezing rain or whatever, then that's where the cover is going to come into play, and that's the only time I'm going to use a cover. So I bought these off of Amazon. They're 1/2 inch 16 threads, same that the anchor bolts are, and it looks like this. I actually bought a couple of different designs just to have, and I decided to use this particular one. And so in the winter, when I go to use the cover, then I will just simply bolt this on like that, then using a tarp strap, not a bungee cord, but a tarp strap, the kind that you see on semis when they're tying down the tarps to a roll of steel or whatever it is they might be hauling, lumber, heavy duty ones. Then that will hook onto here, and then I will have eye bolts in the cover. Like I said, I haven't made it yet, but I will, just haven't had time. And then that'll hold the cover down, and it'll go down, I don't know, at least 1 foot. And then that way snow won't accumulate, and when I want to use it, then I just pull the cover off. So, and I'll leave these off until needed. And these are a galvanized type coated metal. Now I chose this spot in my yard because it's within 100 feet of an extension cord, but I have spots in the yard where those yellow markers are. I've got 3 in this view and another one over here. But if we take a look where that white, I've got a piece of PVC pipe over a fence post. That is where, if I ever do it, is where the center of a pier would be for my observatory. Now whether I ever do that remains to be seen, but that's where I would put my observatory.